Hello, I'm Allison Batty Caps of Blossoming Heart Wellness, and today we are going to look at the harmful myth of poor mindset in a trauma-informed way that bridges neuroscience, spirituality, psychology, and economic reality. There's a type of article that circulates online. It usually has titles such as Habits of Unsuccessful People, or Poor Mindset versus Wealthy Mindset, or Why Some People Never Get Ahead. And while these articles are often containing small pieces of truth, many of them also carry something much deeper underneath, a hierarchy of human worth. The implication becomes, if you're struggling financially, emotionally, or relationally, you must be thinking incorrectly, vibrating incorrectly, manifesting incorrectly, or lacking discipline. And today I want to talk about why that framing can become psychologically harmful, spiritually distorted, and neuroscientifically incomplete. Not to shame anyone who believes these ideas, not to shame people who are wealthy, and not to shame people who are struggling, but to bring more compassion and reality to the conversation. Because human lives are much more complex than motivational biases. So the problem with upper class versus working class mindset. One of the problems that I have seen in these articles is that they often reduce structural realities into personal moral traits. They frame wealth as evidence of better thinking, better habits, better emotional regulation, better discipline, or higher consciousness. And they frame poverty as evidence of limiting beliefs, victim mentality, scarcity mindset, or poor decision making. But reality is far more nuanced than that. A single mother can be working 2 jobs and may not lack vision. She may just be lacking rest so that her nervous system can reset. Someone living paycheck to paycheck may not lack discipline. They may lack margin. Someone avoiding risk may not lack courage. They may understand that one mistake could cost them housing, healthcare, and safety. Trauma-informed psychology teaches us that behavior exists in context to environmental stressors. People adapt to the environments they survive in. What does neuroscience actually show? From a neuroscience perspective, chronic stress and scarcity affect the nervous system profoundly, and these are things that are outside of our control. When people live under ongoing financial pressure, the brain and body and nervous system shift into survival processing. That is all the body and brain are capable of doing under chronic stress. This is not a failure. This is intelligent design. The nervous system prioritizes immediate safety, threat monitoring, short-term problem solving, and energy conservation. That is not laziness. It is intellectual adaptation that allows the human being to actually survive and live. Research on scarcity psychology shows that chronic stress can reduce cognitive bandwidth. So when someone says, why don't poor people just invest more, take more risk, or think long term, they may be overlooking the neurobiological effects of chronic instability and the reality that they don't have extra money to invest. Whereas a person with generational wealth or who is middle to upper class has a completely different nervous system relationship to risk than someone who knows one emergency could collapse their entire life. And that matters. I also think that spirituality becomes distorted when it gets fused with economic hierarchy. Some spiritual teachings subtly imply that wealth equals alignment, poverty equals low vibration, success equals spiritual evolution. But compassion is not measured by income, and compassion for other humans is the actual ideal for spiritually evolved people. Wisdom is not measured by productivity. Wisdom comes when we understand the complexity of what it is to be a human being, and we understand that the body has limitations. It isn't just about willpower alone. And consciousness is not measured by net worth. Some of the most spiritually grounded people I have met have lived with profound struggle, and some wealthy people are deeply compassionate and ethical, and some are not. Money itself is not a moral scorecard. From a spiritual perspective, every human being has inherent dignity independent of achievement. We are not worthy when we produce more. We are not less sacred when we struggle. Personal responsibility does still matter, but context matters too. This does not mean that personal agency is irrelevant. Our choices do matter. Our habits do matter. Healing does matter, and learning does matter. Developing emotional awareness, financial literacy, supportive relationships, and long-term thinking can absolutely improve people's lives. However, that is difficult to do when you are living in survival mode. When you don't have the structure in place, it is hard to build that structure. So from trauma-informed healing, we need to recognize that growth happens differently depending on a person's level of safety, support, privilege, health, and access. And the reality is, the more money you have, the more safety, support, privilege, health, and access you have. The less money you have, the less safety, support, privilege, health, and access. We cannot ethically talk about mindset without also talking about systems. And we cannot ethically talk about systems while stripping people of agency. Both realities coexist. This is where I believe mature compassion lives. It's holding complexity instead of collapsing into blame. The hidden shame under self-improvement culture. Sometimes self-improvement culture unintentionally creates shame by turning every struggle into evidence of personal failure. If you are burned out, you need a better mindset. If you are poor, you need abundant thinking. If you are traumatized, you are blocking manifestations. If your nervous system is overwhelmed, you are not spiritually aligned enough. These messages are deeply harmful to trauma survivors because many already carry toxic shame, and shame rarely creates sustainable transformation. What creates transformation is safety, compassion, connection, support, and accurate understanding. Healing is not about becoming superior to other humans. It is about becoming more integrated, compassionate, conscious, and connected to reality. I think we need conversations about money, healing, and growth that are both empowering and humane. Conversations that recognize personal responsibility without shaming, systems without helplessness, spirituality without hierarchy, and neuroscience without dehumanization. Because human beings are not productive machines. We are living nervous systems shaped by relationships, environments, biology, meaning, and experience. And every person deserves dignity, not only when they succeed, but also, and most importantly, when they are struggling, surviving, healing, or beginning again. If this conversation resonated with you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments or subscribe. I'd love to hear what messages you have about success, worth, and mindset that you were taught when you were growing up, and how these messages affected your relationship with yourself. Thank you for being here. And if you want to go deeper, I invite you to read my book, The Divine Within, Healing Ourselves to Heal the World, or go to my website, blossomingheartwellness.com, to learn more about how to work with me or my online courses, which are designed to help you work with your nervous system so that you can heal and begin building the supports that will help you change your life. Sending you deep love and appreciation, recognizing that it is a difficult journey when you have experienced trauma or systemic oppression.